Welcome to this week's meeting of the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley. The goal of our club is expressed as entrepreneurship, innovation, and education. And we use technology as a means to further our goals of doing good in the world. We have a special guest this week, and that is Bernadette Siracky, who is the Executive Director of the Kamloops Food Bank. She is a return guest. Her first appearance on the program was in regards to the Rotary, Kamloops Rotary Food Drive. And this time she's coming back to discuss a unique program that has been developed by the food bank under her direction, which is called Food Share. And I am very excited to present this program. And please go ahead and take it away, Bernadette.
Hi, Roger. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm wondering if a good place to start is to show you a quick video, and then we can have a bit of a discussion. But you and I live in the same city, and you know our food bank very well, and we operate a food recovery program called Food Share. And we've grown it over the years, but I think if we can give everyone a bit of context, I can talk about it after I show the video. So I'm going to try and make sure I can follow your directions for sharing a video that we chat. Oh, it is right here, Roger. All right. Hopefully this will work. Is it playing? No. Can you see this, Roger?
It's good. It's playing.
You can see it?
We can see it and we can hear it.
Oh, great. Okay. stop share. Okay, can you see me again?
Yes, just excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm not sure what's playing now. How do I stop this?
Stop what?
I think maybe it's just playing on my computer. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop this. Okay. Oh no. Can you see me, Roger?
Yes, I can. And I can also see Shags, one of our members.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I'm not as, there we go, as well versed in your program here as you guys are with Zoom. This is excellent. You're giving me the opportunity to practice. I'm back. Hey, everything's off on my computer.
Okay.
Anyway, so we started this program in 2007 at our food bank, and that was a bit before the time when people actually were talking about food security and food waste as much as they are now. So it was relatively new to people to give this product that would have otherwise gone to the landfill to another agency. So there was a lot of hesitancy, I would say, on the part of the retailers to give product to us. So we've been working really hard with Food Banks Canada to create retail partnerships nationally. But before we had those national partnerships with Loblaws and with Walmart, and those are the only two actually we have, we had to work with individual stores to get them on board. So we had to show them that our processes worked well and that the food was being safely transported in a temperature safe manner, and we take on the liability for that. So we had to show the stores that there were some strong systems in place and that they could trust us with this product. And in the end, all the product that you saw in that video would have gone to the landfill. It's absolutely stunning. We have 3 refrigerated trucks that operate 7 days a week. And in the last year, so from 10 years ago, this fledgling program, well, 11 now, we just had a handful of stores on board that were just giving us bread and maybe some produce, to now getting the entire gamut of perishable product from all of our local retailers, including Costco. So we get everything, including dairy, meat, produce, bread, deli items, frozen items, and we give it to people. It just makes sense. We're able to give it to our clients once a week. So our clients are getting very healthy food. I mean, they're leaving here with 7 bagfuls, you know, every week if they need it. And we're also able to distribute to 60 agencies. Last year it was 60 agencies that make meals in our community. So for the people watching this, we're in a city of about 95,000 people, with the greater district about 120,000. So it's very significant, the numbers that I'm sharing with you. What we did then is we took this program to our provincial board, and we shared it with some other food banks and modeled for them how to implement this, to start and implement and sustain this program. And 3 of these food banks, us and 2 others, got together with Food Banks BC and created a food recovery guide that we have since shared with Food Banks BC, or sorry, Food Banks Canada, and they're sharing that Canada-wide. So hopefully that'll have an impact with food going to people instead of the landfill. One of the interesting things I found out in this journey, I certainly didn't start out as a food waste expert, but did you know that organic waste creates more methane than any other type of waste in the landfill? That was a surprise to me. I thought it would make sense that when you put something underground that is natural, organic, that it would compost underneath there the way it does when you kind of flip through a compost and get oxygen to it, but it doesn't. When that oxygen isn't getting to it, it creates methane gases that more so than any other waste. So that was one surprising fact I found out along the way. Yeah, so that's sort of a general overview of our program and how we've tried to share what we've learned along the way. And we've even shared into other provinces personally, and yeah, so it's been an incredible journey for us, and we've engaged in a service level agreement with our city, just recognizing the sheer volume that we're diverting from the landfill. So I don't know if you have any questions or if you'd like me to
Yes.
elaborate.
Shags, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I remember seeing something the other day about, it was on National Public Radio, or a couple of months ago. French supermarkets started in 2016. They were the first nation in the world that banned supermarkets from wasting food under a new law, where large grocery stores have to donate unsold food to charities.
Isn't that fabulous? And that's what we need to emulate. So I've brought that forward. Thank you for noting that to our local MLAs here in BC, because what we've done in the Lower Mainland is they've passed legislation that grocery stores can't throw that product in the landfill in the Lower Mainland. So what are they doing? They're composting it instead of giving it to charity. The difference between the legislation that you're talking about is that the legislation that was passed in France said you have to give it to a charity. You can't compost it. In BC, it says you can't put it in the landfill. So they're composting. So I'm trying to connect in with our MLAs. Well, I actually have with both of them, and I've asked them to bring forward the same legislation that you're referring to, that instead of stopping at it can't go to the landfill, go one step further, as France did, and say that it has to go to a charity. The issue with going to a charity is interesting, and I wouldn't have even realized there was an issue to that until I've worked in this world for as long as I have. Many charities don't have the infrastructure to take that on. So sometimes it sounds like this wonderful idea, and then it's like this dump truck on these charities, and they don't know what to do with it. They don't have distribution strategies. They don't have storage facilities. They don't have the capacity to distribute it. And so that's—
But a food bank is a charity, is it not?
What's that?
A food bank is a charity, is it not?
It is. And so what we did here, you're exactly right. So we've come up with kind of a funding model and a strategy that works, and that's why we're trying to share it with others. Many nonprofits get overwhelmed with this type of generosity all at once, and we've figured it out for a city the size of 100,000. And so we really want to share what we've learned, because not only, if you think about it, it costs us about $350,000 a year, and that's after we've purchased the capital items required, meaning refrigerated trucks, freezers, etc., just operations for food share. And the food bank actually it takes in a lot of the overhead when it comes to the building and the staffing, etc., right? So it's a really conservative number, but we give out, because of that, over almost $7 million worth of perishable items every year. So we don't purchase any perishable products. So some of our fundraising will go to support the cost of the program instead of the food. And some agencies are hyper focused on ensuring that those dollars are going to food instead of putting those dollars in the gas tank and bringing in $5,000 worth of food in one truck run, right? So it's a different way of thinking for the charities, for sure. Yeah.
Great work.
Well, it's been—
Any other questions,
this city
Shags?
is amazing. That we're very lucky to live in Kamloops, and our city really supports our efforts. Yeah.
How did you first come up with the idea or the concept?
Oh, you're sweet, Roger. I wish I could take credit for it. I can't. When the Food Policy Council that has existed in our city for about 25 years, they created this vision of what could be, but they didn't have the infrastructure or the staffing or anything to sort of take this on. So they created kind of a template of what could be, had some conversations with the stores, in agreement with a couple of stores, and then they needed an agency to take on the actual operations. They didn't have the ability to actually make it work. And I think that's where sometimes the disconnect is with food recovery, is that people know it's a good thing, and then they can't figure out how to get the money or the infrastructure to make it happen. And that can be a real struggle for some charities, for sure. We weren't in a position to even take it on really when we did. We've come to a really solid place with our finances. I don't think that, if we were to look at it as we look at it now, I don't know, taking it on was a real risk at that point. But it's become just the biggest benefit for us and this community, for sure. So I can't take credit for that. It came from the Food Policy Council. Yeah.
I know that the Rotary Downtown Club monthly puts on a dinner night for those that are on social assistance for families.
For vulnerable families, yeah.
So,
they get all of their perishable product from our food share program.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And what other examples can you give of the usages of the food within the community?
Yeah, a good question. We support pretty much every meal program that happens in Kamloops. They get at least a certain percentage of their perishable product from us. So I can show you an entire list of the agencies that we serve, but it's everything from the Rotary family dinners to Pit Stop, which is called People in Transition. That happens once a week, and that is for people who are experiencing homelessness. Ask Wellness in Town runs several programs for people experiencing homelessness. They get their product all from us. The Pregnancy Care Center, Family Tree, we support 10 programs in the school district, 10 different schools that have meal programs, and we deliver product to them. Boys and Girls Club, all of their snacks, the Child Development Center. So we really impact the community. We're getting out there and getting that food immediately out into the community. So we have to have a really strong distribution strategy in order to do it well. And we've created that.
What's the difference between the lifespan of, let's say, a perishable item from when the, let's say, Safeway, for instance, says that it should no longer be on its shelves, to the time where it's got to be taken to the to feed animals because it's not good for human beings? What's the time lag between that?
It's a good question. And that depends on the reason the store is giving it to us. What we've found is now that we've created these relationships, the stores give us everything that they need to get rid of. Because often stores aren't looking at food as food. They're looking at it as a product they either need to sell or get rid of and make space. So for example, with Costco, here's an example of a brand new product they give us. They got in pallets of peppers, that come in packages of 6. The barcodes weren't scanning. Brand new peppers, right? Brand new to them. They called us and said, hey, we got 6 pallets of peppers, come and get them. So because the barcodes aren't scanning, they would have gone in the garbage. Another example from Costco is the little potatoes, those baby potatoes in bags. The country of origin was incorrect. Pallets of them they needed to get rid of. So it's really interesting when you start getting into this world, the reasons stores get rid of stuff. Items aren't selling, they're changing the packaging, but with perishable product, we have to follow food safe rules. So we can give, let's say, yogurt out for 7 days past, but the stores can't. So they might be giving us the yogurt maybe 5 days prior to the expiry date. We can give it out for the next 10 days, right? So we have rules for every type of product. It's all different. Deli items, so those sandwiches that are pre-packaged, etc., we can give those up to a day past. The stores can't. So for the stores, they're giving it to us the day before. Right? So often, so they all have their different rules of how they clear their shelves, but they're giving it to us the day before. We can give that out now for 2 days, as long as we're keeping it in a temperature or storing it in temperature safe manner. Sometimes they'll give us eggs because one egg was cracked in the box, right? They threw out the whole thing. Those eggs are fine. So every product has a different reason for being here. Frozen product, meat. We have a great process with the stores where on the best before date, and stores are so retail stores are so cautious on their best before date on meat. It's actually still good for quite a while after that, but they freeze it on the best before date, and then we put it in our walk-in freezer. So we do a double check here. We have systems for every type of product. When the meat comes in, we cross off the barcode so that people can't try to take it back to the store, because you can clearly see on the label what store it came from. And then we're checking for packaging. We have a wildlife reserve here, the wildlife park. And so we give any meat with compromised packaging to the wildlife park. So that doesn't even go to farmers. That goes to the wildlife park. And
yeah, I was going to ask about farmers. Well, you'd think a lot of produce would go to pigs.
Yeah,
because
a lot.
At our Rotary Youth Leadership Awards program in the district where I live, they go up north and it's on a working farm in the middle of the mountains, the Trinity Mountains. And that's what they do, is all the food scraps get fed to pigs, which the campers then eat next year for dinner.
I love this. I love that you're sharing stories. Where are you from exactly?
I'm in Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Well, we do a similar thing. We have 6 local farmers, and those often shift. Like farmers, they all talk about this, and they'll connect in with us and say, what can we get? When the produce comes here, we have volunteers and staff that sort it. Anything that's already expired goes to farmers. So we have a rotation with farmers, and they're picking up, oh my gosh, thousands of pounds a day, really, of products.
As long as it's not going to the landfill.
Instead of going to the landfill. We try to be zero waste. It's not always possible. We try to be as close to zero waste as possible. And it's better animal feed. I mean, the farmers love it. They mix it with product that they purchase, feed that they purchase, and then they mix it with the perishable product that they're getting from us, and the feed lasts them. Like they said before, that feed would last a week. It now lasts sometimes, 6 weeks, 2 months. And the meat, the product in the end is much better with their animals as well.
Well, but for the fence around the garden, the animals would be eating it anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
Rooting and digging and eating.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a
win-win-win.
It is. It's just a no-brainer. It really is. And so I guess for me, and you sort of alluded to this when you talked about the legislation, it's figuring out how to get a sustainable financial model for this type of program. We have such a successful food bank here and such a supportive community that food recovery is able to operate sort of on the coattails of our food bank, which is perfect. And I would never say it runs on the coattails, but it kind of does financially, right? Because a lot of the fundraising we do for the food bank is going to support food recovery, and which is a good thing. It's all good. But how do you operate a food recovery program on its own without it attached to a charity, just as its own charity? I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know. How do you get money to operate this? And that's what I'm asking our provincial government. Like, you guys should be supporting these efforts. We're decreasing methane gas. I've given them all these stats, right? We're decreasing methane gas. We're saving space in the landfill. We're feeding people, for God's sakes, number one. And we're giving this to animals. I mean, come on, there's just no better program. How can you help us financially? And I still don't have an answer to that. I have no money coming financially, provincially or nationally, for this program.
You've mentioned, Bernadette, about a model that you've created with the federal organization. If somebody wanted to receive a copy of that, how would they go about to do that?
It's on our website. I can definitely send you an electronic copy. I'm not sure where Food Banks Canada is housing that, or Food Banks BC on their websites, but it is publicly available for certain. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for this. So I'm always delighted to talk about this program, to talk about food recovery, and to help guide any organization that's ready to start it. But at this point, in my understanding, and I've been doing this for 10 years, is I really am an advocate and fully believe that our governments should be supporting these programs financially, and they're not. So I don't know how any organization can operate this if they're not tied to another charity. I don't know how that works. I think there are food recovery programs that operate on their own, but I'm not sure about their financial model and how they sustain that. Okay. Because the stores, like, we're saving them tipping fees, but it's not enough to operate our program, right? And they're not even giving us their tipping fees at this point. At this point, we're just picking up product free of charge to the stores.
Yeah. The food bank in our area down here is, the CEO is actually a Rotarian.
Okay.
And I'm always getting emails, or no, not emails. I'm always getting direct mail requesting contributions. So They have programs in place where they're always taking
Yeah.
funds.
It's difficult, like when you're doing fundraising like that, like we do with the food bank as well. You do events, you do direct asks, you know, that sort of thing. But I'm talking about some core operational funding that you can depend on, right? When you're doing fundraising efforts like that, it's difficult to sustain certain levels. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a big corporation that says, okay, you know what? We're going to have a golf tournament. All proceeds go to you, right? So the proceeds go to you. You get $60,000 a year from this golf tournament for 3 years. And then they're like, okay, we're going to support another charity, right? So it's difficult to sustain a certain levels of fundraising, or and then you have to seek out other sources because now your operation has, has grown to the point where you need that 60,000, extra 60,000. Where do you get that? So I'm talking about core operational funding, right? So we're always doing fundraising. Like we raise our budget as an organization, including food recovery and the food bank, is $950,000 a year, and we get $130,000 from this government grant, and the rest of it we're fundraising for. It's a tough gig. Fundraising is not easy. So I'm suggesting core government funding to recognize the fact that food recovery is more than charity. Food recovery is so much more than that. It's it's full circle with food. It's ensuring it doesn't go back in the landfill, feeding people, saving the environment in landfill. So it's a whole different perspective. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to me, you guys. I appreciate your support with thanks for coming on board all the way from California. I like that.
Thank you very much, Bernadette,
Thanks,
for
Roger.
all the guests on the meeting today, and our members. Please do not forget to fill out the comment section at the bottom of the meeting. And secondly, if you are a visitor and you correctly enter your email address, our club will send to you a statement which you can take to your club secretary as a makeup. And the other thing that I would like to ask each and every one of you to do if you're watching this meeting is to take 5 minutes. And within the 5 minutes, pick up your telephone and phone your local food bank. And give them the site for this presentation in order that they can watch it. Hopefully by doing that, and if each of us does that, then the idea of food share will be generated across most of the world where our members reside. So at this point in time, I would ask Bernadette to give us her last words of wisdom and before we close down the program. Bernadette.
No wisdom, I don't know, Roger. No wisdom. I'm just trying my best. You know what? If anybody wants to learn about food recovery, I would love to have a conversation. The video that I showed at the beginning is you can go on our website, kamloopsfoodbank.org, and it's on our YouTube channel, which the icon is right on there, and the food recovery manual is available on our website as well. I guess I just always encourage people, especially when it comes to serving our community's most vulnerable, to focus on your giving, to focus on your goodness, and less on judgment. And I think if we do that as communities, as Rotarians, as communities, as cities, we'll shift. I sometimes see a lot of energy on judgment, and if we put that energy into compassion and into giving back, I think the shift would be monumental and the impact would be clear.
Thank you very much, Bernadette.
Thank you, Roger.